What's going on, guys? So we're back here again on another Tuesday. We had our interview Saturday. I'm gonna probably do the interview Saturday from now on. And Tuesday will be kind of like the regular discussions where we do the regular Q&A, but we'll also have a topic, of course. But I'm gonna stick to interviews later in the week on Saturday, along with the trainings that I do as well. So let's get into it. So, as I like to start every single live or video with the hero's creed, repeat after me. I'm smart, I'm skilled, I will. So, I want to welcome you guys for joining in. If this is your first time joining in, make sure that you hit the little share, the little, it's shaped like a triangle, but it's a little airplane at the bottom right hand of the screen, and share this with at least 2 people. So, I want to thank you guys for coming in. My name is Don. I am a former personal trainer, mixed with also being a social media manager / social media trainer. I help people grow their accounts and pretty much just get more engagement on their page and increase their outreach, along with training people as well. So that's what I do specifically. So make sure you hit share. Now, what's been going on this week? So for the most part, this week has just been just focusing on not rebuilding, but continuing with what we're doing with the channel. We're getting more interviews in. We had the first one last week. It went really good. What else are we doing? Still building up the page, still getting more engagement. But on the back end, the side that you guys don't see, for the most part, we've been just getting more people involved with the business itself, training people, getting people to actually increase their engagement without paying for ads. So we've been doing that, along with bringing you guys some more content. For next week, it'll be the same thing, but we are going to start scheduling the trainings, so that'll be more. It'll have more of a organized format, because before I was just training people every day, but I want to do it as a group since it's a lot of people. So we have the trainings, and then we're gonna have more people on the show, and we're gonna have more of a structured format where it's like weekends we have people on, and throughout the week we have the conversation. So before I forget, we have the candle of the month. Now, because we are in October 1st was, I believe it was Saturday, we got out of the strawberry September, so instead of strawberry September, we have autumn October. So I have the autumn October scented candle. This is called Golden Harvest Pumpkin. It's from the company named Homeworks, HOMEWORX. So get yourself a nice scented candle, and if you hashtag it and you post it in your story, I'll repost it. So I'll give you a little shout out. So just make sure that you post it and tag me, and then I'll re-tag you, and it'll come up on my story. So make sure that if you get these, or if you just want to post it, post autumn October. So that is our candle of the month. Another thing I forgot to mention for what's been going on, we've been pretty much just organizing our trainings. So from now on, it'll be every Saturday at 6 o'clock. I was going to push it back till 7, but I'm probably going to do the training before the show. So I'm going to probably do it an hour before. So you get yourself registered and just message me, and then I'll send you the calendar invite so you can have the reminder, because before I was just telling people just to show up on Saturday, but I want to have the invite so people remember, they'll be reminded, because there's so many people that want to come in. There's so many people that want to be a part of it, and I need to keep track of everybody. So hit the DM me, and I'll put you in that. So that is what's been going on. Let's see what else. So the topic for today. So specifically, should I do cardio? Should I do weights before or after cardio? So that's the question everybody's been having. And they're overall just different. ideas that people have. People have different perspectives on the topic. Now, I'm gonna tell you guys from two perspectives that I was training in when I started. So when I first started, back in, when was it? Back in late 20s, well, not even late, but mid to late 2017. When I started, I had a longer workout routine. So I would be in the gym for a good full, probably hour and a half. And I always did warm up before starting. That was always my thing. It was just a natural habit. And it did help the workouts and make them a little bit easier. But I would say that, depending on what you're training for, there's gonna be a different way you're gonna want to do things. So, because I was training for hypertrophy, I was trying to grow. It was a little bit easier and it was a little bit more practical to do stuff that kind of gets blood flow in the muscles first, get some lubrication in the joints. It made more sense and it was a little bit easier to do that because I wasn't using super high weight. So going back to that time, when I'm really, really slim, I was like 120 pounds. And I was really, really slim and I was only curling like 15-pound weights. I was barely using weight when I was using the Smith machine, or when I was using, what else was I using? There were a lot of like bicep machines and I wasn't using a lot of weight, like probably 15 pounds, 20 pounds max. So I was more athletic at the time, so that's why I could withstand doing, cardio and more warm-up stuff prior to the main lift. So it comes down to specifically what you're doing. And of course, you're going to have more energy. You're going to have way more energy when you're first starting and depending on what you're doing. So, of course, I could just go in the gym and do multiple things because the main lift was a little bit lighter. It was a little bit easier. Now, if you're somebody who's powerlifting or you're doing strength-based stuff, then of course, you don't want to optimize doing something that's going to zap your energy prior to a big lift. One, because of safety. And two, you need that extra energy to be focused. So if somebody's training for strength, I wouldn't advise them to warm up, in a traditional warm up beforehand. So when I say traditional warm up, my warm up back then was to pretty much either do the treadmill or do the elliptical, and I would do it for about, I think I did it for about maybe 15 minutes. And like I said before, that was me first starting to work out. That was me like really, really just beginning. And, when you're first starting, you're learning different things, but you learn what's sustainable, what's sustainable and what's not. So, of course, your first 6-7 weeks, you can do a lot. Like when I first started, I was going to the gym for like a whole month, pretty much every day. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I would do, what would I do? I would do like the main stuff, like my arms and my chest. I would do one day for legs. So I think I would do Tuesday legs. And then Thursday, I would like do a day where like I go and I kind of like focus on active recovery and stretching, mixed with something, a little more fun, like an accessory movement, like maybe calves or something. So I would do something like that. And then Saturday, I'll probably go in there just to do sport-based workouts if I didn't have practice. So I would do, what would I do? I would do battle ropes, a lot of cardio stuff. And then Sunday, I wouldn't go. Sunday, I would just stay home. But, going 6 days a week, it's not really sustainable. It's not really possible. You can't sustain that for a long time. So I learned quickly within about a month, you can't, go nuts. And then there's a good and bad to it. I think the good and bad is that, when you first start, you should try out different things. The gym, it should be fun. It should be something that's engaging and interesting. But you should still look down long term. You should still look and be like, okay, like, is this something I can keep up? But the importance of that story is that, it teaches you sustainability, but depending on what you're doing, you can only do so much. So we fast forward to college. So when I was in college, let me see. So around I think it was the end of my first semester, I had started training like the whole conventional push pull legs. Prior to that, I was doing spot training. So I was doing like specifically targeting arms and chest. I did a teeny bit of legs, but it was mostly just stuff I wanted to grow. Did I get results? Yes, I got really good results. But my strength suffered, and there's only so much you can do when you really like spot train. So if somebody was trying to get abs, they could only get so much from just doing sit-ups. There's other stuff that comes in. There's resistance training that you need. On top of that, there's the diet part, and the diet can only do so much if you don't run. It actually burn certain fat cells off of you. So I could only get so much. So in order to take things to the next level, I did what I should have did starting off, which was do more compound stuff. So I started doing compound stuff. Now this is important, and I want you guys to remember this part, because it was a risk, for me, because I was used to doing things one way, and I said, let me try and do it a different way. Instead of doing, all the accessory stuff and being in the gym for like 90 minutes, let's cut it to like 45. Let's do core lifts. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do because I don't want to lose my gains, but I was like, let's just try it. And eventually I did see the results, but it's risks like that you got to take, because you don't know if it'll work unless you try. Now, the importance of me telling that story is because, if you're doing bigger stuff, I was doing bigger lifts. You need to understand that you can only do so much of a warm-up. So my warm-up then, I think it was more dynamic stretching. So just basic, dynamic stretching, and keeping my body warm. So because I was short on time in college, now I always did have time to work out, but I always planned for times when I would be working a job. So I always tried to limit as much time as I spent in the gym and got the most results. So I was just the person that tried to get as much done as I could, and like I said, look long term. So my secret, my little tip I would give people is a good way to still warm up without warming up is if you just put on warm clothes. Now in the summertime this doesn't count as much, but like for the fall and like when it's still cool and early spring, I would put on my thermals before going to the gym and pretty much just keep myself insulated and warm as much as possible. But I would prioritize what do they call them, like not compression, but like the hyper warm gear, stuff like that. I would prioritize it and put it on, and it would keep my muscles nice and warm. So when I get to the gym, everything is loose and ready to go. But my warm up was pretty much just stretching. And like I said before, had I went and said, let's do treadmill and elliptical work before a big lift like that, before doing a big routine where you're doing a lot of compound stuff back to back, I would have suffered. And then on top of that, you're tired, so your form isn't as good. So I believe, wholeheartedly, anybody training, and even if you're a trainer, you want to prioritize for yourself and for your clients, the most important stuff first, because you want to have your focus, you want to have your energy for it. And you got to think backwards. So why are you doing cardio? You think backwards. You're not just doing it for fun. If you are doing it for fun, I will save it for later. But if you're doing it to be healthy, like I said, do it for later. It's a lot easier to run after lifting versus, you're lifting after you run. Because you need that focus, you need all that energy to move weight. So you want to prioritize, what's important, what requires the most energy. And I had done it before. I think one time when I was in school, I did try to do a warm-up before lifting, and I saw the result. The result was, like I said, the fatigue, the lack of form, just overall, it just wasn't safe for what I was doing. So you want to prioritize what's most important first. So that's my take on it. Other people have different ideas. Now, the question that comes up is, what should I do? Um, Depending on what type of lift I'm doing, that's how I categorize it. It depends on what you're doing. So if you're lifting, to gain some mass and you're doing higher reps, like I was doing, you can do a warm up, but it'll, like I said before, it'll cost something. So you want to tailor the warm up to what you're doing. So for my guys who I train, that they're doing bigger lifts, they're doing what I specialize in, which is power building. I make sure that they, like I said, they're warm, their body, their muscles are warm, but they do dynamic stuff. Why? Because one, it doesn't take too much energy, and it doesn't zap up too much time. And like I said before, it gets, the joints lubricated, it gets the body and the nervous system ready to move, and it gets your body opened up. But the important thing is, like I said, it gets that blood flow in without sacrificing too much energy. Because warming up on a treadmill, you don't need as much as you think. You really don't need as much as you think. I did 15 minutes for the sake of it, but you can get away with about 2 to 3. You don't need as much. Because the idea is just to get that initial blood flow in. The way you know you're not getting blood flow in is when you're lifting and you're feeling pain, you're feeling tight, you're not feeling as relaxed and fluid. That's when you know you didn't warm up. And that's why people pull muscles. And their form suffers. A lot of the time when your form is suffering, that's why when your form is suffering, oftentimes it can be stuff like that. How you're prioritizing your workouts. So for me, another thing was structuring, and I know this is like the subset of the topic, but it's a question I've been getting a lot from clients and other people that train, and just questions that they like to pick my brain about. How do I structure the workouts to optimize energy? This is something that you have to see for yourself, and this is why I was able to get a lot of gains in a short amount of time. Because if you're training a certain muscle group before another one, it might be a little bit harder. So if you're trying to train, your bicep and your your back, and you have like a circuit of stuff you do in the gym, so like you do 5 exercises and you do them in a certain order, because those are both pull movements, you might have to say, okay, even though I want to train my back, even though this is like a break because it's not as intense, and the next one is more intense, you might have to switch that around, because those are both pull movements. So you're going to feel the muscle fatigue. So, if you're doing a workout that's pull and another one that's pull, it's going to be harder for you to curl and then do another pull movement. Even though if you were going to swap that with maybe push-ups, you would probably be tired. So that's why you have to kind of play around with and see what works for you. So for me, a good example was I would do curls, then I would do push-ups, so that we push, and then I would do curls again. Not curls, I would do back, because it's a pulling movement, a pulling exercise. So you have to deal with that. You want to make sure you're able to actually get through all the workouts, and then in between the time that you're kind of resting, you do the other workout. So you would do, if I'm doing curls, after that I wouldn't do another pull movement. I would do a push thing. So I do push-ups. The tricky part that comes in is trying to do something that's not as intense back to back. So if I'm doing a lot of curls, that might be intense, and then the push-ups, that might be intense too. Now, if that's not the lift that I want to prioritize, then I'll swap it and I'll say, okay, since curls are what I want to prioritize, I'll do curls heavy. My break will probably be abs, because it's not something I really want to focus on. It's not as intense, and I get a break, or maybe calves. Then I go into pull again. So I do my back, and that includes the bicep, so the muscle has rested. Then I go into something more intense if I'm rested enough, and that's when I do my push-ups. So, all you guys that train and train others, you guys know what I'm talking about. But this is for people who are getting into fitness. But you guys know what I'm talking about. So that's how you prioritize certain lifts, and that's why sometimes you suffer because you're not structuring the workout correctly. So changing the order makes a huge difference. And like I said, I always prioritize what I wanted to see the most gains in. I can't say this enough. So like I said, when I had came home from college the first year, I would, because I wasn't working at the time, I would pretty much just like stay up all night and then sleep during the day. And I would wake up super late because that semester I was partying a lot. So I was used to waking up like at 5 p.m. and then eating, going to class, and then partying in the evening. And then, waking up late, just that cycle of being up at night and in the evening. I would work out at night. So what I would do is I would prioritize biceps because I'll never forget. I was like, all right, like I want to gain some mass over this break. And I kept saying, we're going to prioritize biceps. And I did exactly that. So I made sure that I was increasing the weight and keeping proper form and keeping biceps, improvement, like the forefront of the my routine and my program. So eventually, because I think the break is about 6 weeks. So 6 weeks later, I started seeing some bicep gains. But the important part was the progress. I saw my strength increase a lot. So you want to focus on that. You want to focus on big results, but you want to focus on what was I saying? Oh right, yeah. You want to make sure that you're prioritizing what's important to you at that moment. So a lot of it does come down to just common sense. If you want to see a gain in this way or that way, you focus on that first. So I have a topic from healthline.com. Well, it was an article, but it's titled "Run Before or After Workout, What's More Effective?" So it says, quote, "If you want to build muscle, run first. If you want to build your endurance and aerobic capacity, run last. Essentially, your body's adaptive response is greater for the type of exercise that you finish your workout doing." And that's from healthline.com. So basically what they're saying is, if you, from their perspective, they're saying if you want to build muscle, run first. And they're saying that if you want to build your endurance, run last. So they're saying that the body knows, it pretty much will, let me see, how can I break it down? Basically, they're saying that what you finish doing, your body's going to improve on that more. However, like I said, that's case by case. It's overall case by case, but a good example would be like, and you can try this out yourself. If you are tired, you're really fatigued, of course, your brain is going to put in that last bit of energy to finish the workout. But if you want maximum performance, I would still say, focus on what's most important. This is from personal experience. This is from people I've trained. Like I said before, doctors and people who study exercise science, it can be a little bit skewed because a lot of the data, it's not necessarily natural all the time. It's not practical. It's stuff that they've tried, and it could have worked for just one person, but it doesn't compile everybody collectively, and it doesn't compile the majority. So for the most part, because for example, they could have just tested athletes, and for athletes, they're used to endurance training. So at the end of the endurance, they'll basically their muscles will respond to the end of their workout if you're training for endurance. And a good example of this is when I used to do high reps. When you're doing high reps, a lot of your gains come from the end of the workout, if that makes sense. So it depends on what you're doing. If you're training for endurance, like I said before, I would advise it. Do your cardio beforehand, but not a lot of people are doing that. Most of the people that do that are athletes that are doing high rep stuff. People that just want gains, they're doing like 10 to 12 reps. They're not doing super high reps. So like I said before, the medical professionals and people that study exercise science, it depends on just overall what the type of person is training for and what they do. So they're saying the opposite, that, you know, the end of the workout will give you the, I guess, answer that you want, or is what you should focus on. I'm saying the opposite. But I would advise you guys to try it out. Try it out and see for yourself. So let's see. Okay, so our tip for the week, and this is for my mentees, our tip for the week is to prioritize titles. So this kind of goes back to hooks. I posted on my page an example of titles that you can use as hooks to just get more views and to get on the explore page and just to get more engagement in your posts. So you want to check that out. The importance is that it'll stop somebody, it'll catch their eye. So this goes back to my fundamental aspects of social media of being direct, which is the third, actually no, it's the fourth aspect. And people will see it, they'll click on it, and then that's when you start to get the engagement, because they want results. They want solutions to their problems. So, you know, a great way to get more engagement is using hooks in your video. So not in the video, but in the title. So that's where the initial attraction to the video comes. So that is our tip for this week. So next up, we have our Q&A for the, one second, Q&A for the topic, and then after this we have our typical just Q&A of the whole channel. So let's see. Okay, how do you assess new clients? So I usually will just take them through the basic workouts that I'm gonna have them be doing, and I'll see where they are. I'll see where their body is. I'll see, you know, if they've been training before. I'll see how much they can do. Anytime I take somebody into the gym, for the most part, it's just getting them used to the movements, but just seeing what they can do already, seeing where they are. So that's how I'll assess a new client. Do I create meal plans? No, I'm not a dietitian. I do give advice of what foods to eat, but I don't specifically create meal plans. I have trainers that do it for me, and then since I oversee them, they'll do that with you, because I have some that have certifications in dietary studies, and they're dietitians. So if you want a meal plan, get connected with me, and I'll connect you with the dietitian. Let's see, how do you keep your clients engaged? I like to pretty much just keep the workouts engaging. Just keep the workouts as engaging as possible. One thing that I learned for working out, you know, over a long amount of time, is that you got to keep things new and interesting. You can do the same thing for like a year, but you know, you keep things interesting, it'll keep you going. It'll just make training more fun, and you won't hate it, because I got to a point where I hated it for like a good 2 years. Well, I wouldn't say 2 years. I'd say maybe about a year. But I hated it every day for like a year. You know, so you got to keep things engaging. On top of that, you start to see where you slack or where you struggle when you do new things. So if you're doing the same thing, you can't see what your weaknesses are. So, what was the question? Oh, encouragement. Yeah, just trying things that are new, motivational stuff, and just taking care of yourself, resting when you need to rest. That'll also boost your engagement when you rest when you need to, when you take care of yourself. Let's see, what else? How many hours of training do you have? Or training people do you have? I don't know by hours. I just go by time, because I started in like 2019. So I would say close to 3 years, I would say, in terms of time. Results I have, they're on my page. And that's results of me and results from other people. Let me see what else. Okay, let's do the questions for the channel before we wrap up. Okay. What social media platforms do you suggest? So I suggest, of course, Instagram. The reason for me is because I've used it for so long. Um, I would suggest that Instagram and Facebook mostly. Um, yeah. Do you schedule your posts? Yes and no. I have a tool, but I don't really use it. I think it's just because I like to post when I see something I like or when I'm creative. Um, I rather post then, but they do have apps. They have a lot of free apps that help, that will do it for you. I end up looking to make sure the post actually posts because sometimes the thing might glitch and I don't want to like not have the post. So since I'm gonna look anyway, I rather just post it myself. Or I have the post ready. I have like the caption and the hashtags and everything, and then I just copy and paste it. What do you use to measure data in your post performance? Just the insights, honestly. I just go based off of what's working and I'll just keep going. I think it's the same situation with anything that you're doing. You know, you just double down on what works. So if you're working out and it's working, just double down on that, see where you can improve. But don't keep doing something that's not working. Like if you're posting clips that people don't want, then move to something else. So yeah, I would just move to something else. Just post what's working. If you're teaching people bicep stuff and they like bicep stuff, stick with that, or figure out a way to improve it. But I use just basic insights, honestly. How do you decide when to post? When people are most active, and then just trying out different times. I think it was like last month, I was doing a different time. So what I would suggest, to keep it practical is straight up just do it week by week. So say this week I'm going to do these times, and then make sure you write it down so you know. And then say next week I'll do these times, and then you can track the data to see what time is best. But you really have to track the data. But I decide just based on when I think most people are active, like in the early evening, before bed, and early afternoon. So that's how I check. Let me see, were those all of them? Yep, those are all of them. Okay. So, in closing, before we finish, I want to say thank you guys for coming. I like to keep my regular week shows a little short. My weekend ones, I keep them a little longer. In closing, like I said before, make sure to register for the training. And we're switching days, so it shows on my profile Wednesday and Saturday. We're going to switch days now. Because Tuesday was a little bit tough for me, so we're going to do Wednesday and Saturday. So, like I said before, just be ready for that. And I'll see you guys in the next stream. So I'll see you guys on Saturday.